When I started changing my spending habits in some sort of effort to save me money, be a little bit more frugal, I came across this YouTube short. It was practically an advertisement for this. This is considered a retro console, and it's pretty renowned for quite a few things. So let's check it out. The design is slick, only a few centimeters tall. It has 2 joysticks, a D-pad, 4-button layout, select and start buttons, R1, R2, L1, L2, a save state, and system preferences button, volume up and volume down, a power button, and a reset button. In terms of input, the RGH has a DC USB-C input here, which also handles controller input. This is a mini HDMI output, which transfers sound and video to the screen, and you can still use this as a controller while you're playing. We've also got another USB-C input, a headphone jack, and at the bottom, there are 2 micro SD card slots. The one on the left holds an SD card that comes with a couple games, as well as the system's operating system. The one on the right, extra ROM storage, so you can play whatever you want, put it in there. Now flipping this over from the front to the back here, the rear has these little rubber pads, which helps with ergonomics. And I have to say, it's quite light. So while you're playing it in bed, your arms aren't getting numb as quick as maybe the Switch. So let's talk about performance then. On a 3.5-inch IPS screen with 640 by 480 resolution, you're giving up a little bit of resolution compared to some other consoles. However, depending on the games that you're playing on here, this might be the best screen those games have ever been played on during its lifetime. For example, the PSP screen only had a resolution of 480 by 272. It should handle those games pretty nice in terms of quality. The processor is a quad-core ARM Cortex A7 chip. To be honest, like I said, I don't know what that means or how this relates to other gaming systems, but I know it's able to handle the games that I'm looking at playing quite easily. Now the battery lasts quite some time. Recently I've been playing Silent Hill 1 and I made it through about halfway through the game on 1 battery charge. So that's roughly 4 to 6 gameplay hours of PlayStation 1. Now, while the game performance on here is generally decent, there are some slowdowns depending on what systems you're trying to emulate. Going back to the PSP, playing Miami Vice, there were a little hiccups in its ability to handle it. However, using the system's preference button and Reddit, because there's tons of resources on how to optimize this for gameplay, I was able to fix a few settings and play Miami Vice PSP. Why anybody would want to play that game? Don't ask me. I didn't even have that game growing up, so it's not nostalgia for me. Now this system here is compatible with NES, SNES, Sega Genesis, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, and there's a few more on there that I didn't grow up playing, so I couldn't tell you how it compares to playing it on the original system. But what I do know is the games that I have played on this are, I love having this thing. I asked myself, why am I in the market for this? What am I looking for? What games does it need to play minimum? And I knew that I wanted to play Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, PlayStation Portable, and PlayStation 1 games. Maybe N64. And this came up. Now, there is another variant of it that looks more like a Game Boy Color. I wasn't a fan of that because it looked like the R1, R2 buttons would get stuck trying to pull it out of your pocket. And this is just nice and slick. It pops right into your pocket, and I can't help but love it for the $100 price range. I won't go over how to download or get backup games. I feel like there's tons of other places to do that. I'm not comfortable doing that. These are just games that I own that I put onto here. But this has saved me a whack of money simply because I didn't have to go buy a PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 again. I kept all the games for some reason, but not the consoles. I feel like my mother had something to do with that. Like, clean up your room, get rid of the stuff. So I have all these games and not the consoles, but now I can play them on here, and that makes me incredibly happy. Anyway, I've been M Fuji, and I'll catch you on the next video, which will still be a Frugal handheld gaming system video. However, there's a little twist for how much I paid for that game system, so stay tuned for that. I'm M Fuji. Catch you next time.
Hey,
Hey, subscribe.
hey, you know, subscribe.
Please.